All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today is July 2024, and this meeting is for our real estate agents. And we're going to get started with the interest rates. So, the good news is that the interest rates are coming down, right? So, that is the best news we can hear. Second week now that the interest rates are coming down. So, according to Freddie Mac, as of last week, the interest rates for 30 years fixed conventional conforming loans were hovering around 6.77. Again, it even feels good to even say these words, these numbers, 6.77. As long as it's in the sixes, we are much better than sevens and eights that we have seen. According to Mortgage News Daily, as of yesterday, they were hovering around 6.87. And look at your FHA. FHA is coming down to 6.33. Again, these loan programs are made to help out different residents with their different situations, depending on their credit scores, the down payment, with different criteria. So when you look at FHA, we don't want to say FHA is a bad program. It's a great program when you don't qualify for conventional. So there are some negative things about FHA where they have to pay upfront cost of 1.75%. That's additional. You don't have to pay that if it was a conventional. Um, and your mortgage insurance does not go away right away, right? Either it stays there for life of it if you put down less than 10%, or if you do put down 10% or more, then it goes away after 11 years. But those are the negatives. But the positives is you will get a lower interest rate compared to your conventional, right? So there's pros and cons to this. So we're projecting, even all the real estate marketing, even the loan officers, they're projecting that, hey, we're going to have some Fed cuts. Initially, beginning of this year, we thought there will be three of them. And then maybe June hit, as of last month, we thought that, hey, nothing happened so far, right? 6 months have been passed and nothing happened. And now the second half should be looking better and better for our realtors and for our loan officers, right? So our chief economist for NAR had mentioned that, hey, we are seeing a slow shift from seller's market to the buyer's market, right? And we know that every market is a little different from one another, right? But more buyers are insisting on home inspections and appraisal contingencies, right? So this is the time when you're putting in an offer, just want to make sure you're protecting your client by having them do a home inspection and have a bank appraisal contingency in the contract, right? Both of them are super important. And if you waive any of them, there is going to be a negative thing for them. Let's say the property does have major issues, they're going to come and blame you. Hey, you did not tell me. And if the bank appraisal is lower than your offer accepted price, then you're going to have your buyer come up with the difference, and they might not have enough money sitting around for this appraisal difference, right? You want your client to feel good that, hey, they bought this property and they already built equity. We have done transactions where the bank appraisal value is higher, meaning you're going under contract with your client for $500,000, but the bank thinks that the property is valued at 550, right? That's a really good thing for them. Anything over your asking price or your contract price, that's a good thing for your client because they're getting a good deal. On the other hand, if it's on the lower end, they have to come up with the difference. Your buyer have to come up with the difference. So protect your buyer, making sure they have a bank appraisal contingency in the contract. Okay. More cuts are coming, not just this year, but next year as well. So there are some real estate agents are feeling a little iffy about their license. Hey, so many changes are coming. Should I still even be active? I have a part-time, full-time job. Do I want to pay the MLS fees? I feel like the interest rates is going to be skyrocketing. I think the first part, yes. The second part, no. Meaning, hey, the interest rates should be cutting. It should be coming down, right? We already have seen the worst. It should be coming down, not the other way around. But it's going to be all up to you. It's going to be an individual decision. Hey, am I going to be active as a real estate agent or not? Okay. But according to chief economist, stated that the Fed may start cutting rate as soon as possible, which is going to be in September. right? We projected that last meeting as well. The first cut that we should see is going to be in September. The next meeting that's going to happen with the Fed is going to be next Wednesday on July 31st. But we're not expecting any rate cuts then. If there is a rate cut, we all will be surprised. That will be a positive thing. But we're definitely expecting our first cut in September, and it's going to continue throughout 2025. Okay? So just be prepared, guys. So next, guys, I'm going to give you affordability calculation here. This is from one of our files that we're closing right now to show you guys that maximum affordability does not mean that you have to spend that much. Maybe you can come to see us as a loan officer, and the loan officer might say, hey, you qualify for $800,000. Doesn't mean you're going to go purchase that property up to $800,000, right? So this household had $136,000 annual income. Their down payment was $198,000. Their monthly debt was $524. The interest rate they got was 6.99. The property tax was $5,700, and property insurance about $1,500. So according to their maximum, because when you're coming to see a loan officer, the loan officer is going to give you the max amount, right? They don't want you to go to see another loan officer and they tell them a higher amount, right? So it's just a normal thing for a loan officer to tell you, hey, this is the maximum you qualify for. So for this family, they were going with a conventional loan so their DTI, their debt to income ratio, can go up to 49%, and they qualified up to $868,000. But guess what? They ended up finding a property for $660,000, right? So which means that their debt to income ratio dropped from 49% to 37%, which means that they can comfortably make their payments, mortgage payment on month after month without any issues. On top of that, even though they have a higher income, less debt, they qualify for more, maybe they will look for a second home later on, right, to qualify. So just when you see a pre-approval, just don't assume that, hey, that's the amount that they're going to be looking for. Ask them, hey, is going to be a price range? Are you looking for a little bit less, a little bit more? What is your situation? And if you have a pre-approval that's older than 90 days, highly recommend that your client goes back to the same loan officer or a different one and get an updated pre-approval. The interest rate has dropped, so they should be qualifying for a little bit more money than before. One of our agent mentioned, Damien, when we were meeting yesterday, he wants to focus on condos and co-ops, and that is a great idea, right? These are people who are renting out right now, and they don't qualify for maybe a large single-family property. So if they're going with condo or co-op, just like any real estate in New York here, the property value for condos and co-ops do go up every year as well. So you want to guide them, hey, maybe let's go look for a condo if you're interested in going that route. Condos are a little bit longer in process because the boards are in there to approve the application. Not just the mortgage, but the board, the building's management board needs to make sure that they're satisfied with whatever guidelines they have for this client. Okay? They cannot discriminate, but they still have their guidelines, and some of them are much slower than others. Okay. Couple of home buying tips when you're talking to a first-time home buyer. Maybe you're just trying to build, have a small talk with them. This could be anytime you're thinking that this might be a first-time home buyer. You want to ask them, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I will be able to help you out, but you can do the following on your own. One is looking at your credit scores, right? Sign up for Credit Karma or any other websites that you like, and you can even get your full free credit reports from each individual companies every year for free, right? So everyone should be doing that just to make sure that, hey, everything looks good on their credit report, right? The second is you're managing your debt. If you have different credit cards, right? If you have multiple credit cards with multiple debt on that will have a negative effect on you. So meaning most banks do want 3 credit lines, right? So if you have no credit cards, that's also a problem. But the problem is also when we need to manage those credit cards. So the goal or the rule should be, if whatever balance you have, it should be less than 30% of your available credit. So if the credit card company is giving you $10,000 credit, you should not be spending more than $3,000 on that credit card. Okay? So if you have a low balance credit cards, pay them off so you can have a zero balance on that. You want to contact a mortgage lender. It could be, if you're really comfortable with going with your bank, just go with them. As a real estate agent, I'm not too sure which bank you're going to end up going with, but you're just getting a pre-approval letter right now. So with this pre-approval letter, I can go ahead and show you properties, put in the offers, and then you can decide which bank you actually want to work with, right? You want to put together a budget. Hey, just as we mentioned, even if the loan officer tells you that, hey, you qualify for $800,000, you don't have to go with that. What your budget is, where you're comfortable making those payments. Okay? And consider low down payment options. So many people, the biggest hurdle for a first time home buyer is to save up for their down payment. Some people are trying to save up for more than others, but there are plenty of loan programs that can help them become a first time home buyer. Okay? All right, guys. So if you have a first time home buyer, help them out much as possible, guide them much as possible, because they don't know all the options. Okay. Any questions, concerns, guys? All right, guys. Next is that sometimes you own a house and you feel like this is your house and you have no idea. Maybe the deed, the title itself has been transferred to someone else. And then you might be paying the mortgage and you have no idea about this. So New York recently came out with the new thing that they're going to be treating this as a crime, right? This is a deed theft. Theft is going to be a crime for New Yorkers. Anybody that's scamming anyone for this. So before it was not a bigger of a crime. Now it will be. So main thing is just checking. When you're checking geodata, right? Just making sure that, hey, the ownership, under ownership, your name is listed there. Or when you're talking to a listing, when you're talking to a potential listing from a seller, you want to check your geodata. You're going to check RPR, see where the last deed transfer was completed, right? I personally went through this when we are talking to somebody and you feel like they're the owner and they're not the owners. How do we know this? We have tools like geodata, making sure that you're talking to the right person. But if anybody went through this issues or anything like that, just know that, hey, government is taking action to make sure that there's less crime for this deed theft. Okay. Next, guys, worst may be over for the homeowners because we have seen it for last full year, maybe longer now, that the first time homebuyers are having this issue with higher interest rate, higher prices, and low inventory, right? Finally, we're seeing a little bit more inventory. Finally, we are seeing the price the home mortgages rates are coming down. So this is the right time to purchase the property. June in particular was that where the housing market starts showing some signs that it was in favor for your buyers, right? So again, this is the right time to take some action and make sure you can find a property for your client and go under contract before September, right? After September, especially with the families that have kids and everything, they don't want to make that move. They don't want to switch schools after September. So this is the perfect time to do so. Okay. Again, another wire transfer fraud that happened for $400,000. So the reason we're mentioning these things to you guys, so this way you guys can know that these things are real, like, wire fraud is real. When you're thinking that you're about to send a wire for a large amount, everything seems legit, and then you end up sending the money to someone else, and there's no way of getting that money back, right? We want to prevent this type of fraud. So if we all are real estate agents. So when we're talking to our clients, we're like, hey, before you send any funds, right? I don't care if it's a wire transfer. I don't care if it's certified checks, especially when it's towards end of the closing. You're literally excited. Hey, I have a closing, happening tomorrow. I'm going to be a first time home buyer, and you're just sending out a wire or a certified check without verifying with your attorney. You're going to pay for that. So the best thing to do is like, hey, I am going to the bank today. I have to send this wire. Could you please verify this is the right amount and this is the right payable to person? right? Once you have verified that with your attorney, then you have no issues. The worst thing you can do is the email fraud. It was like looking at the email, hey, send this wire. And the wire fraud is very real in the sense that when you get that email, it looks very legit. As you can see in this article here, the person really thought that was coming from their title company. Okay. So let's prevent this fraud from happening. So when you're having this conversation with your first time home buyers, you want to mention these things. Okay. Next, guys, you have your contract and then you have your addendum or rider. This is very, very important because anytime you're negotiating with your buyer's agent or the listing agent and you have addendum or a rider on the contract, make sure that you guys agree to some of the things. So it shouldn't be everything that the listing agent is saying. Just yesterday, we put in an offer for about $1.4 million in Hicksville, right? The listing agent says, okay, fine, we will accept your offer without mentioning anything. You're like, hey, we'll accept your offer. Great. Now the contract came. With the contract, it has like 4 additional things in the rider. Hey, the transfer tax must be paid from the buyer. So who pays the transfer tax? Normally, it should be the seller. If the buyer is willing to pay for that, they need to know what is the amount. So they were disputing, hey, is it 0.4% or is it 1.825%? Huge difference, right? One of them is like $20,000, another one is about $5,000. So if your property is in Nassau County, then you're just paying 0.4%. If your property is in Queens or any of the 5 boroughs here, then you have to pay 1.8%. So the best thing to do is have the seller pay for this. But if you really want the deal to happen and your buyer's okay with paying the transfer tax, just find out the amount. You need to know that for sure. Okay. If you guys are agreeing on the seller to fix the bathroom leak or remove the oil tank or fix the sidewalk or any of the things that you guys are going to be agreeing to, is going to be on a rider, and the rider needs to be satisfied before the final walkthrough. So whatever is listed on the rider, we want to make sure that before we do the final walkthrough, all these things are done. You're going to verify that through the listing agent, and when you do the final walkthrough, you're going to obviously see if the sidewalk was fixed or not, if the oil tank was removed or not, right? So make sure you understand everything on the rider before your client actually signs for that. Okay. Next, guys, for investors, there are some agent of ours who are really focused on the builder sides, who are actually fixing up properties and trying to resell them. For the agents that who are new, just note that there are a lot of mom and pop investors. These are not big time investors. These are just the small time investors who are taking over the market. So there's more and more of people doing that. Hey, my first flip worked. Now I want to do another one. We have another client that came in about a week ago. We assigned that lead to one of our agent, and he said, hey, I'm like an open listing for everyone, meaning I'm selling my house. So I'm going to have around $600,000 come in at that closing. I'm going to reinvest $500,000. So again, that $500,000, he's going to have that buy another property, fix that up, and resell it. Once he gets that funds back, he's going to keep the profit, and he's going to take the remaining of that and do it again. Okay, it really depends on which area they're serving. The goal here is that you guys start going to the auctions and start figuring this piece out. Okay, so look at this property here. This property was listed for $400,000 and it was sold for $490,000. So I don't think we can find any property in South Ocean Park right here for $490,000 right now. So this is 11127 126th Street. The winning bid for $490,000, right? So similar process. Every time we're sending you guys a PDF for your auctions, try to go there. Again, if you have no experience, how are you going to get this experience? By going there. Okay. We give you the time, we give you the date. You just have to show up there and see how the bidding works. And you will see how fast the bidding goes. So for example, each property is listed there, and when it goes on auction, literally is done within a couple of minutes. Sometimes it's 3 to 5 minutes. Right? So get to know this process. Money is to be made on this. You should be charging all the investors as you're going to be taking there directly. You can first start go there by yourself, see the process, and then go with your investors and start bidding on it. I have done this personally before COVID, before becoming a broker. When I was a salesperson, I was doing this. So I highly recommend that you guys do this because again, money is to be made there. Okay. Next, guys, every week we're gonna show you guys how's the market in different areas, right? So Valley Stream right now is definitely a strong seller's market. Why is that? Because the property that come on the market goes fairly quickly. Median price in Valley Stream is around $800,000. And you guys see the chart here next to that little graph here. It just shows you that, hey, it's definitely on the higher end. And we have seen it over and over again that the prices are not dropping in Valley Stream, right? What is per square foot? We're going to learn that in the next few slides too. Every time you're buying a house, maybe an investor or maybe a first-time home buyer might ask you, hey, I'm paying $600,000 for this property. How much am I paying per square foot? We're going to go through that. Okay, average days on the market is about 100 days for them. This is total from listing it all the way selling the property, about 100 days, so about 3 months or so. Okay, but look at how many times that the price decreased recently here, right? 30%. Again, when as a listing agent, when we are putting the property on the market, we have to do our comps and keep it realistic. The worst thing to do is keep dropping the price, and because you haven't put the right price initially. If you put on the lower end, doesn't mean that you're going to go with that price. Explain that to the to your sellers. Hey, I'm the listing agent is one of those strategies where I can put it on the lower end. I know the property's values at 600, but let's put it at 580 so we can have more eyeballs, more people coming in to the open house, so we can have a bidding war. Okay, so medium rent is in Valley Stream is around $4,000. So it's definitely a seller's market in Valley Stream. How about Jamaica Queens here? Jamaica Queens is not as hot as your Valley Stream there because there's a little bit more inventory, but it's definitely a slight seller's advantage. And why is that? You guys can see here the median price, list price is $720 in Jamaica Queens, and per square foot is around $584. Okay. So every week we're going to be going through different areas. Any areas that you guys want to go over, just send me a message and I can use those. One of our agents started focusing on Flushing area, right? They're doing Zillow ads in Flushing. So if you want to start serving any area because it's nearby you, or you just like the fact that, hey, it's a hot market, you want to be part of that. So in Flushing here is definitely a seller's market, rate of 44. And look at the list price. The median list price is $1.2 million. Again, if you want to start growing your book of business to where you are an agent that's serving on the higher end, maybe Flushing is for you, right? The houses are not huge. It's just that there's enough demand there where people are willing to pay more per square foot, right? So in this area is around $708. What was in Jamaica Queens? $584. Okay. So how do you determine what is cost per square foot? So we have a value. We're just going to give you an example. So if the property value is $500,000, we're not looking at the lot size, right? The lot size could be 40 by 100, 50 by 100. Rather, we're going to be looking at the build size. So the building size itself. So average single family property we see is around 13 to 1400 square feet. So if it's a two family, typically around 2,500 square feet, right? So each floor, you're going to see around 12 to 1,300 square feet per floor. So how do you do the math? It's very simple. You simply take the price. Hey, it's $500,000. You're dividing it by the build size, which was 1,500. So your total price per square foot, 500,000 divided by 15, you're going to see $330 per square feet. Okay, so the sale price divided by how many square feet the property is built, that will give you how much is square feet, price per square feet. Is also known as PPSF. Okay. So let's give you another example. If the property is at $800,000 and the build size is 1,300 square feet, right? That means this could be in Valley Stream, right? So $800,000 divided by 1,300, you get 615 cost per square feet. Any questions on this, guys? Good, right? All right. So what factors are affects your price per square foot, right? So is the property location. So Manhattan is a lot more expensive than Queens. Even in Brooklyn now, there's so many areas where it's a lot more expensive than the other areas just within the neighborhood, right? So different city, state, neighborhood, all of those will play a big factor into that. And the property features, right? Is it everything luxury in the property, or maybe the investor did really, a basic job there? That would matter, right? Condition for the property itself, the construction material that they used, right? Was it used? How is the flooring done? How's the roofing done, right? And how's the market trends? Is it a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? Every area will be different, right? So when you're looking at square feet, I just want you to have an idea when client tells you, hey, what is the square feet that I'm going to be paying for this property? You should be able to take the price divided by the build size, and you'll get cost per square foot. Okay. All right, guys. Now we're going to shift the gears, guys, for our agreements that we have to have your buyer sign, right? So if a prospect buyer or client will not agree to compensate me or pay you as a buyer's agent, do I have to work with them? The answer is no. You're not going to be working for free, right? Before you enter into a buyer's agency relationship with the buyer, you must discuss your compensation, right? How much money you going to pay charge them. Every agent is going to be charging different amounts. Some will do a flat fee, some of them will do a percentage, some of them will do on the higher end, some will do on the lower end. Everything is going to be negotiable. So you got to make sure that you keep it competitive enough that when you're talking to your client, that you feel confident. Hey, I'm asking you for this because this is what I have to bring to the table. If you don't want to work with me, it's perfectly fine. Go find another agent that will be willing to do, work with you for a lower amount or no amount, right? But when they're going from one person to another agent, and each agent is telling them the same thing, then they do get the idea. So a lot of agents, when we're having a conversation with them, we are telling them, hey, it's not going to be overnight thing. It might take them maybe 6 months or a year for the whole buyer's market to understand these changes. But we have to start educating them beforehand. Hey, August 17th even did not even hit yet, but I'm preparing you. It's less than a month away now, right? So we want to make sure that, hey, we understand the concept. We can tell our clients, hey, this is a new law now. I have to make sure that I follow the rules, and you have to pay me regardless, right? Here's my written agreement, and it clearly states that, hey, if I find you the property within this time frame, right, maybe a month or 2 months, I need to get paid from you. Okay. And how about if the sellers, we want our agents to focus on the listing side, right? This is where the money is to be made. This is where you control the deal, right? You have more control over that. So as a listing agent, you want to make sure that you're doing everything right by the seller. And this is when we tell everybody, hey, as a client, when you want to go see, you want to work directly with the listing agent and you want to cut out the buyer's agent, the listing agent is already representing the seller. This is his best interest is the seller's best interest, right? So whatever how could he be faithful to you and to the seller? It's just not possible. So they should be working with a buyer's agent that's going to be on their side. On the side for the seller side, as a listing, and maybe the seller might ask you, hey, do you think it's a good price when you want to list a property, right? Do you think it will sell for this price and sell quickly? So what do the sellers want? The sellers always want the highest price possible, right? They have that one thing, this property, maybe they bought it 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? They already built some equity and they have one chance. They just need one buyer. So they want to, ask for the maximum price. But you have to do the research. You have to be the one that is guiding them. It's like, hey, I know you're asking for $1 million, but the property is worth no more than $800,000 because of this, this, and this. On the other hand, they might be thinking that, hey, it's worth, maybe we had an agent where the client is telling them, hey, I think I want to sell it for 750. We did the comps and maybe we said, hey, maybe you can put it for 799, right? So you're the one who have the tools to really guide them. And you want to tell the seller, hey, I understand you want to get you want to get the maximum price and I want to get every penny possible for you. But we have to go in a way, if we list it too high, what's the point of wasting your time, my time, other agents' time and everything, and we can get a deal done? Let's keep it realistic. So how are you going to do that? You're going to do the research before you visit them. Do the comps. You have 3 tools that we highly recommend. Number 1 is your RPR, right? It's no brainer. You just log in, put in the address. Same thing with geodata. So you have 2 comps right off the bat. This literally takes you 2 minutes, right? And then you go to KV Core and or on MLS Stratus and start looking for current properties that's on the market. Hey, Mr. Seller, this is what the banks might think through RPR or geodata. This is what I have done the research. And now let's look at your property versus other property that is currently in the same zip code. Maybe it's up the block, maybe it's 2 blocks down, but it's in the same zip code. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. You're asking for $700,000, but we see majority of the listings for $600,000. Let's really compare those properties, right? How are you going to be really confident when you're talking to the clients? With your knowledge, right? Because you have backup. You're not just saying these numbers out loud to them. You're showing them on paper, hey, I checked this stat from this website. Okay. So we want you to focus on listings. We want you to find out what their needs are, right? So when you're seeing a seller, you want to view the property, you want to point out the positives and the negatives, right? Because you want to be loyal to them. You want to say, hey, if we can get this fixed now, that will bring up the value. On the other hand, if you don't fix it, majority of the time, the seller side or the buyer side now will try to downgrade the offer much as possible because this needs to be fixed. So take notes, guys. Anytime the seller is talking to you about anything, hey, this thing is this old, this thing is this old, it's very professional just to take quick notes. You don't have to write word for word, but just the key points. Hey, he said the boiler was changed recently, maybe 2020, 4 years ago. Great. I updated my roof and I spent $7,000 on the roof. Great. He mentioned that to me. I'm going to write it down, right? I have the net takeaway breakdown for them. So because I did my research already, I'm going to give them 3 different breakdowns. The worst case scenario, hey, if we sell your property on the lowest end, that's what you will take away, or right in the middle and one on the highest end, right? Hey, these are 3 different scenarios. Which one should we list it for? Obviously, they're going to go with the highest one, but you the one who's going to be guiding them to this. That net takeaway amount is really, really important. Explaining your transfer tax on that net income sheet is really, really important as well. And you don't want them to say, or you don't want to tell them that, hey, I'm going to send you documents to e-sign. You're already at their house. You already view the property, right? You're already giving them the net takeaway amount sheet. Why not, if they're ready? So give them the right to sell agreement and the disclosures. They might not sign it there. You can leave the whole folder with them. Like, hey, when do you want me to come back tomorrow morning to pick these documents up or review it one more time? What does the scenario look like? And just know that when you are a listing agent, you are just like on the buyer side, you're competing with other agents. Maybe you're going to see the seller and that seller already interviewed 3 other agents or more. How are you going to be competing with them? Okay, if you already sold the properties already, you know the whole process, upsell that, right? You need to tell them, hey, what are you all about? Focus on meeting homeowners. This is how you're going to get more listings. So if one person says no, it's perfectly fine. Don't be discouraged. You want to go to see another one, right? Just keep focusing on the homeowners. Hey, I need to find out if they have a reason to sell their property. Majority of the homeowners have interest rates below 5%. So if today's market rate is around 6.87 that we mentioned, if your rate is locked in at 5%, you need to have a solid reason to move or sell the property. If you don't have a solid reason, I'm not selling that. That's a great investment for me, right? Because maybe I have 3% interest rate, 3.5%. I can make my mortgage payment comfortably. I'm getting enough funds coming in from the rental income. Whatever the situation is, they don't want to sell. You need to find out if they have a reason. If they do have a reason, jump on that deal and see if you can help them sell that property. Explain the whole process with them, right? We went through the whole presentation. We have a listing presentation. Go through the whole presentation with them and see how you're going to be their guide and help her sell the property. Okay? And it's the best thing to do is ask them about liens. Hey, do you know if there's any additional liens on the property? If not, the title report will come up and tell you, hey, there are additional liens. If you are aware of it, let's put it in the net income, adjust the price if it is needed. But the goal here is that not to get surprised at the closing table or before the closing. Right? Because when you're selling the property, Mr. Seller, we want to make sure that there are no surprises and you have no issue and you are actually taking, a good amount of money which you have earned over the years at the closing table. Okay? If the seller, because the sellers will ask you for capital gain, right? It was like, hey, what is my capital gain tax? So when you're talking to them about that, first mention that, hey, I am not a CPA. Anything I'm about to tell you, I would recommend that you speak to your CPA and see what he or she has to say. But what I can tell you is that government gives you a $250,000 break if you are single, if you're filing your taxes single. Okay? If you're filing it with your wife and it's joint, then the government gives you a break up to $500,000. So what does that mean? So that means if you bought the property for $500,000 and now you're selling it for $1 million and you have filed the taxes jointly with your wife, that means collectively you guys have made $500,000 because you bought it for $500,000, you're selling for $1 million, you made a profit of $500,000. Now that capital gain, how much tax you got to pay on the capital gain? Zero, because the government is allowing you to have a break up to $500,000. Yeah, Mr. Ali?
Both husband and wife have to be on the deed
Yes,
on the
good.
property.
100%. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. So not just filing the taxes, but they also have to be the homeowner for that property, which is going to be through the deed. Okay, as long as both of their names are on the deed, they should get that break. So when we're mentioning these things, this is exactly what we say. Hey, anything I'm about to say, I want you to verify with your CPA, right? But as long as they are, filing it jointly, their names on the deed, they're the homeowners, they should have a break up to $500,000. Now, if they bought the house for $500,000, now they're selling it for $1.1 million. Now they should be able to pay the profit that they're making is $600,000. So the break that they'll get is $500,000. So the capital gain that they have to pay is going to be on that $100,000. What is the percentage? CPA will verify that. Okay. So, but again, the point of this slide is like being on the listing side, being on the seller side. We want our agents to focus on the listings. This is where we're going to be a professional realtor and really be on the side where we can be making a good amount of money because you on the listing side, right? We know that the buyer side is definitely a hurdle. It's going to be a bigger issue later on trying to convince our buyers. But the seller side, they already know the process. With all these changes that we're talking about with the commission, the sellers are happy. Why sellers are happy? Because they don't have to pay more of a commission now. Even our sellers breakdown sheet, we have the listing agent, we have the buyer's agent. On the buyer's agent, you can put literally zero there, right? It's just going to be one of those, bullet points that you're going to be upselling yourself. Hey, Mr. Seller, I know you want to list it for $700,000. Instead of paying 3% or 4%, now you're just going to pay me 2%. He's going to be like, who would say no to that? Okay, because they don't have to worry about the buyer side. Again, you want to explain the pros and cons for them. If you say, hey, even if we offer a little bit to them, maybe this will encourage the buyer's agent to show this property and go under contract a little bit more quicker. Otherwise, if we don't want to pay them, we don't have to pay them. Okay, those are little things that you want to make sure that you're aware of when you're talking to your clients. Next, when we talk about our transaction desk, guys, every one of you guys should have access to this. We should not be filling out these forms later on in the deal. We should be filling out these when we're putting in an offer. We should be filling this out when we're speaking to the client after August 17. Every one of you guys have to fill this out before you show the first property. Okay. 3 disclosures are your exclusive right to sell, right to represent, your agency disclosure, and your anti-discrimination disclosure, right? All of them are listed on your transaction desk. If your client has any questions, you can read this line where it says, hey, New York's real estate brokers and real estate salespersons are required by New York state law to provide you with this disclosure. Okay, so when you guys saying, hey, my client doesn't know about this, no client is going to say no when you're asking them to sign something that's going to be required by the law, right? So right to represent, agency disclosure, anti-discrimination should be signed on the same day, right? On the same day. And for all the real estate agents, any independent contractor out there, I just got this email yesterday that effective August 28th, there's going to be a new law that's going to be impacting our independent contractor relationship between the broker and the licensee. Right? This law is not part of the NAR settlement. That is different. This is talking about the broker and the real estate agents, right? So you and me here. So me as a broker here, we would need to have another, basically a form that's going to be a contract, basically laying out different things. It's definitely in the favor for the independent contractor, right, for yourself, but just lays out a couple of different things that's going to be required by New York City and New York State, right? It's called, you guys can look that up too, Freelance Isn't Free Act or FIFA. Okay, so the disclosure or the form is going to look very similar. We need to get it notarized. So it will simply say, hey, you are an independent contractor, you are not a or you're not a W-2 employee. You don't have to come to the office. You know, there's no set schedules, there's no set hours for you guys, right? Pretty much where we do have things in our contract, but this one has 2 pages, so we have to get this signed before August 28th. Okay, this will not affect your commission structure in any way or form. Whatever commission structure that you had initially, it will be the same thing implemented when you're signing this form. Okay. Any questions, guys? All right, guys. Next, I do want to go over your KV Core, because out of 70 agents, guys, about 40 of you guys are using KV Core right now. And those who are using are closing deals, right? So it shows that, hey, the systems work, but we just need to find out if you are willing to work in real estate as well, right? So in KV Core, any client that you have should be going in KV Core. Simply put, you're going to click on add contact, put the information in here, and set up alerts for them, right? How you following up with them is under contacts, and making sure that you have alerts set up for them like this. When you see alerts where it shows, hey, this property is around 12 of them are showing, I would probably increase the area or maybe increase the budget, right, to see where we are seeing at least maybe 20 or more properties. But again, anything, if you have no alert set up, we definitely have a problem. If you have alert set up and you're sending them property that, some of you guys thinking that the system is texting them. The system is not texting them on their own. Okay? The system is emailing them, but not everybody checks their email. When was the last time you actually checked your email one by one? But your text messages, you're checking them on a regular basis. So the return on your text message is a lot better. So the open rate and everything. So why not use that? So when you're clicking on, you see this property, I think this is really good for them. It's listed for $599. I click on it. More actions, send via text. And I actually can send it to multiple people. And there will not be a group message. It will be individual messages. But I can literally type in few names in here. Let's say I choose Mr. Khan. I put Mr. Singh, right? So I selected two different people. And in the message here, I'm putting in the address. It just says 123 Main Street. So clearly when they get the message, they see the property address and it says, I think you may like this listing with the property itself. If you're doing this on a regular basis, right? And you're mentioning this and you're clicking send. When you're texting them this, it plays a huge role when they're thinking of you as a professional or not. Right? Even if there's no reply from them, you're still sending them something that they told you, hey, I want to be in this area. This is my price range. They might not be ready today. Right? That does not matter. Right now, your job should be, hey, I don't know if you're ready or not. My job is that you told me you're looking in this area. This is your price range. Let me send you those properties. And trust me, every one of them are judging you in a good way or bad way, depending on if you're sending them properties or not. So if you are, they will feel in certain ways like, hey, whenever the time comes to make that move, that, hey, Mr. Ali have been sending me properties left and right on regular basis. I like this one. Why not reply back to that message? Let's see this property. On the other hand, if you have not heard from Mr. Ali for 6 months, rare cases, but they're gonna think, hey, he's not professional, right? It really depends on how you're performing, how you're getting in front of your client, how often are you doing this. Don't expect them to go be under contract with you if you had no communication in the last 3 months. Okay. So we have a team member here who calls all the archives they're calling all the archives contacts in our KV core, and there are thousands of them. So hopefully if she's calling them and anybody shows interest, you might get that lead back. Okay, so we will be following up with your old clients, those you have archived in KV core, just to show if they do show interest, we will let you know. Okay. So guys, just next few minutes, it just really depends on how many times we have to say this. Every meeting is like, how many leads are you working with? You need to know that, right? It's like, hey, I'm working with John, Smith, Bob, whatever the names are. It's like, hey, I'm working with these leads. I want to follow up with them on a regular basis, and I want to send them as many properties as possible. Then you ask your second question, do I need more leads? Right? Are you able to handle more leads? If you're not, it's perfectly fine. Maybe you do have a full-time or part-time job and you're happy with that. But if you need more leads, then you ask for it. Either you have to ask your sphere, the office, or if you want to go the paid leads route too, either through Zillow or Realtor.com. So any area that you want to start serving, like I said, one of our agents wants to start doing in Flushing. They're going to be doing more advertisement in Flushing. So that's how you get into that market. Okay, you have to decide which area that you want to serve, how many people that you're going to be working with, and how many closings that you're going to be doing throughout the year. Okay, we are asking you to invite our loan officers to your next open house. If you're hosting one, we would love to be there so we can show you some support, give you your client loan options, and see how much they qualify right on the spot. Okay. Guys, that will do it from my end. Any topics for next meeting, you guys can send. A lot of topics that I talk about, is through what the conversation I'm having throughout the whole week with our real estate agents. So if you guys have any topics that you guys want to go over next week, please let me know. Any questions, concerns, guys, before we get going? All right, guys, that will do it. Thank you so much for joining. I will see you guys next time. Take care.